Hey everybody, it's going to take a second here. I just have to get this to stop making the sound. Hey everybody, it's going to take a second here. I just have to get this to stop making the sound. Hey everybody, it's going to take a second here. I just have to get this to stop making the sound. Hey everybody, it's going to take a second here. I just have to get this to stop making the sound. Hey everybody, it's gonna take a second here. I just have to get this to stop making the sound. Hey everybody. It's gonna take a second here. I just have to get this to stop making the sound. Hey everybody. It's gonna take a second here. I just have to get this to stop making the sound. Hey everybody. It's gonna take a second here. I just have to get this to stop making the sound. Hey everybody. It's gonna take a second here. I just have to get this to stop making the sound. Hey everybody. It's gonna take a second here. There we go. Sorry about that. Apparently I left it on so I could listen to it roll in, and it rolled in. So I know we got a couple of questions. Marlin 2.0.8 just came out, and so we're going to examine some of the changes, see if they work correctly. This might be interesting, or it might be a mess. But I've already gotten some people that said they had issues, and we'll see if they're actual issues or maybe something just changed in the steps. So what I'm going to do is, if you want to post questions on things that are occurring for you, I'm going to first show the first question that came in just before. And that was, they're trying to load the Marlin version on the Big Tree Tech SKR Pro version 1.2, and it didn't work, so we'll examine what's going on with that. I still have both versions, so we'll see what happens. So I'm going to take you over first to Marlin's website and see if we can't see what's going on. So they have the latest release right here. This came out Friday morning. So they did post release notes down here talking about new features, and they also talked about new boards that were added and the list of all those boards, configuration updates, and various other things. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by checking the reporting an issue. So these are issues that have been opened up in the last couple days. So anything that's happened for, we'll say, the last 3 days is probably an issue. We might encounter other things that are issues, but the ones that are actual issues at the moment say bug confirmed. Then there's other ones that someone opened and they're still trying to confirm or disprove. So we're going to see what happened first on this board. So like always, I'm going to pop out the drive. I'm going to place it in my device over here. Hopefully I'll place it in correctly. Give me a second here, because apparently I'm out of practice. For those don't know, or for those that do not know, I got my second vaccine shot Friday, so that's why I was not on the air Friday and Saturday. It hit me a little bit harder than I thought. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to VS Code, and we're going to open a project. Now let me show you where the project is real quick. So over in this folder, I already downloaded it and extracted it. This is the current version of, well, I'll show you how to check it. So if you click in here, there's probably a version file. If we open this up, hopefully they'll have the number inside, and that tells you what version you're working with. It also comes up on your display. So now that we know a little bit about that, we're just going to go back over here and we're going to go to Explorer. Then we're going to go to Open Folder. We're going to go to the Downloads folder, open the first Marlin folder, the second Marlin folder, and then select the folder. So this is all of the configuration that we have. Now I've already modified this, so I'm going to actually have to close it real quick and examine what's going on in the actual folder here. So I'm going to have to delete this folder because I don't know what the current state of it is. So we'll unzip a new one real quick here by extracting all, and I'll click extract. I was working on something for another board and I don't want to get anybody confused, but I'll check on the chat while this is extracting. Well, looks a little quiet in the chat at the moment. So if you haven't noticed, I'm starting to add Patreon credits at the end of the videos, because apparently it went up 250% last month. So I'm trying to give credit where credit is due for people that are helping me to offset the expense of bringing these tutorials. So now that that's unzipped, I'm going to go back to VS Code. I'm going to open the folder, and it's in Downloads, Marlin, Marlin again, select folder. So the issue was being able to load this particular build. So I'm going to go to Marlin, then I'm going to go to Source, then I'm going to go to Core, boards.h. I'm going to search on SKR_V1, I think it is. I might be wrong. It's actually SKR Pro, sorry. There we go. And it's V1.2. So we'll copy that. We'll close out of this. We'll minimize Core and Source. We'll go to configuration.h. We'll paste where we get to motherboard. So we just have to search on it real quick here. Highlight ramps, paste it. We have to change this to -1 still. So we're good there. Now we need to set the INI, and this is where it gets confusing because it's still the Mega 2560 for the ramps, but they did something interesting here that kind of confused me initially. They're saying that in the INI file, this is where you can find it. That's what they're saying, kind of like an include. So if we go over to the folder now called INI, and then we look for our board, which we don't know which one it is off the top of our head, so we're going to cheat and go to Source, Core, boards.h. Here's our board, and here's our chipset. So it's STM32F. So we'll minimize this for a second, and we'll find this hopefully right here. It's one of these two. So it's F4. So it's this one. So we're going to search on SKR_Pro, and that's our board right there for the default environment. I know it's super confusing. I don't know why they did it this way, but I'm guessing it was getting kind of long, and so they thought it would be easier to break it up by chipset. So what we're going to do is go to the platform.io.ini, paste it here. Whoop. I've got to go back because I just made a small mistake. I guess this is good review. I actually copied instead of pasted back there. So let's go back here and paste it. Well, let me click on it and paste it. There we go. So we're all set. I also talked about something new. This is Marlin Auto Build, or Auto Build Marlin. In one of the tutorials I just released an hour ago, in order to install it, if you don't already know, you just need to type Marlin, and it'll bring it up, and yours will say install. Mine doesn't at the moment. So it's this little icon here, and then it says show ABM panel. So currently it thinks that we have a previous build in here of ramps. To fix this, click on the little garbage can right here, and now it will show the correct environment for the SKR Pro. So we can click right here to build and see what happens. It should build quicker because I believe they optimized the build, but like before, if you have an issue where it fails, try a second build. If it happens a third time, find the very first error, correct it, and then rebuild, because that usually causes a cascade of other errors. So as soon as this is complete, we've got a new functionality here I'll show you in here that you've seen before when I'm over in here. And that's when you right click on .pio and you go in here, you can right click and then open with or reveal in File Explorer. They actually have it right here. So that just came up. So I'm going to actually check on the drive to see what I have on it before I copy to it. So it has the last build from the 14th. So we'll go back and we'll copy the firmware.bin by doing send to the E drive. So this is your old build, this is your new build. So this is the one it's going to point to when it loads and rename it to this. If you ever need to use this again for another machine or for the same machine, you can always rename it back to this. Just reviewing for a lot of people that haven't seen these before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extract the drive and I'm going to install it and see if we can connect to it. So I'm going to pop out the drive. I'm going to place it in here. I'm going to make sure that the jumper on here is set to USB. There are 3 pins. You want the back 2 most pins. Then I'm going to plug it in and apply power so it can load. So now it's loaded because we saw hopefully a flashing light. So I'm actually going to go over to my desktop for 2 seconds here. And I actually have to open up Pronterface in my print run directory. So now this is open. What I'm going to do is I'm going to connect to the board. But the problem is it says COM port 1. But then it shows 17 and 15. So what we can do is check that by going to Device Manager. So I'm going to go back over to the desktop for a second and do Device Manager, press Enter. And in here we're going to check to see what the COM port is. COM port 1's default on this computer, so it's 17. So I'm going to go to the drop down, click 17 and connect. And it says connecting. Printer is now online. So it appears to work, so let's double check some things. If we do M503, this will tell us our configuration defaults. Right now it says that it's 80 by 80 by 400 by 500, and I'll show you where that relates to. So if I go over to here, let me close this out for a second, and this out, and this out, and search on the A4988. If we scroll down a little, notice how they possibly made a mistake of defaulting these steppers. That's not normal. Normally it should be commented out, but that's just something they need to fix hopefully in the future. It might be that one person was working on a ramps when they're doing development and that's why it's there. But if you notice, it says 80, 80, 400, and 500. Those are our values. So that's correct. So let's go back over and look at here. Now there's not a lot we can derive from this, but we can also check our end stops by doing M119. They're all disconnected, so they should all say triggered. They do. So we're good there, but we can test the theory that these change by going back in to VS Code. And we'll change this to 90. We'll do a search on Endstop. It's going to take me a second to find it. There's Endstop inverting that I'm looking for, so it could be deep in here because I may have already passed it. There we go. Endstop settings. So we're going to go down here and we're going to invert the logic of, we'll say Y. We'll change it from false to true, leaving it unplugged. And we'll rebuild this, and then I'll go back over to the desktop and grab the drive. So I'm going to disconnect the power, pop out the drive, pop it into here, and place it back in the computer. And if you haven't noticed, I talk a lot faster than my tutorials. That's because I'm trying to cover as much ground as possible. Normally in the tutorials I have to talk slow so that I can close caption in foreign languages and I don't sound super funny. So let's do this the other way so you can see it. So I'm going to go up to the .pio folder. I'm going to find the firmware.bin, right click, say reveal in File Explorer. Then I'm going to check on the drive again. Notice how it says cur. We just loaded it a couple minutes ago. So I'll go back over here. I'll right click. I'll send it to the E drive. I'll double check the E drive that it made there. And you're not seeing anything I'm doing, so hang on a second. Sorry, I copied it over. I'll show you the process again real quick. So I found firmware under .pio. I'm going to right click. I'm going to reveal an explorer. I double check the drive. This wasn't here originally. So I'll go back and do it again real quick. So it's right click, send to eDrive. So that's all I did. Sorry about forgetting to transition so you could see it. So I'm going to go back over to the board and load this. I'm going to drop it in. Plug it in. It'll flash. You can see a little light down there. And we'll go back over to Pronterface. Inside Pronterface, obviously we disconnected, so we're going to hit connect again. It does say connecting, printer is now online. We'll do M119 to see if the change worked. It did. So let's do M503 and check our settings and see if that 90 pops up. And it does. So far it loads correctly. I can go a little bit deeper and test the actual steppers next. They did do something with safe stepping that may cause issues. I don't know yet, but let me see what the chat is thinking. Wow, it's kind of quiet. You guys can ask questions, you know. I'm hoping you can hear me because no one said they could or could not. But I am speaking and I'm hoping that it shows up and the echo is gone. So I'm going to go back over and I'm going to try a stepper in VS Code. So what we'll do is we'll bring up VS Code and we'll try one of the advanced steppers. I'm thinking TMC 2209 because there's a homing issue on one of the boards that I'm working with. So I'll show you what I'm going to do. So here's the stepper. I'm going to power this down and I'm going to set up the environment correctly. So we have to go over to the browser for a second and we have to find it. So I always like to double check. I know it seems kind of painful, but the whole point is to get you in the habit of doing it because in my experience I've kind of damaged a lot of boards. So I don't want you to do the same. That's why I do these tutorials. So here's the actual folder. We're going to go to manual and we're going to go to the user manual and we're going to scroll down and look for the UART communication and the correct jumper pin configuration. So this is what I was talking about for VCC and then direct power. Note that when we're using the steppers we need to move it to direct power or they won't function correctly. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit and hopefully it'll show up. Here's step direction or step dir. So what we're looking for is the pinouts for UART, which are right here. So it's this little two sets of pins right here. So we'll go back over to the desktop and set that up. So let me just find my my hook for my dental pick. And I'm going to pop all these out because this is for SPI's configuration of stepping. And then I'm going to place the jumper right here and push it down. So we're all set there. Next thing is, if you look at the coloring of this, we match it in this case. The enable pin's actually in the upper left-hand corner right here. And the recent add to Marlin software is to prevent you from rotating it on the newer boards. Currently the functionality appears not to work as well as the board, but per Big Tree Tech they are fixing it. So wait a week before you order your board because they're trying to get those out of stock so that they don't accidentally send you one. So we're all set there. Now we need to go back to VS Code and make some mods to set this up because we want to do sensorless homing. So I'm just going to set up a couple of quick things before I lose my train of thought. And the first thing is I'm going to plug in the actual stepper. And I'm also going to set up the power real quick. So the first power is actually for the motors on top. And as you can see, the coloration of the actual connectors is set to I put red here to remind me what I'm using. So I'm going to loosen this a little. Actually, it's already loose, so I'm going to slide it in, and then I'm going to tighten it down. Then I'm going to do the same for the ground side, and that takes care of the power for our motors. Next, I'm going to do the power for the board or the logic. So I just have to make sure that I get the right cabling here. And I'm going to slide these in. So here's the ground. And here's the voltage. Hopefully I can get away with this. And tighten these down. This is basically their way of keeping it safe. So now that we've got that done, we need to move the jumper over because we're going to load it with direct power this time. We're going to pop out the drive. And the whole point of this is to see if sensorless homing works. So let me move this a little closer so you can see what's going on. And let me weight this down so it's not in the way. There we go. Put the drive inside the USB card reader and drop this in the computer. And then I'll configure this kind of quick. Now this is already in a tutorial. So those are currently viewable. I'll be releasing another one tomorrow. But they're viewable on Patreon for the people that are subscribed. And I'll be putting up other things that I'll show you in a couple minutes because I have something that I'm working on that's about 50% done. So let's go back over to the desktop for a second. Bring up VS Code. We're going to minimize this. And we're going to go to configuration.h. We're going to do a search on the A4988 to get us in the neighborhood. We're actually going to change this stepper, so we need to search for the TMC2209. This does sensorless homing. So I'm going to paste it right here. Whoop, if I remember to hit paste. There we go. And these we're currently not using, but I'm going to leave them alone for the moment and see if things work. So now down here, I'm not going to play with this. I'm just going to turn it back to 80. I'm also not going to show you how to set up the microstepping this time just because it's in a tutorial already. So I'm going to search on 800. We're just going to check the setting. Looks correct. This value is tied to the 80 if you don't already know. So I've done this several times. I'm going to skip it today, but I'm going to search on TMC_debug so we can make sure it works. I'm going to enable monitor driver status. Then I'm going to search on the second one and I'm going to enable TMC debug. Then I'm going to go back up and I'm going to search on sensorless homing. And it's right down here. So I'm going to remove the comment there. I'm going to set this to 125 like I normally do. And we're going to recompile. And I'll check on the chat while that's going on. Yeah, Caleb, if you're getting a serial error in Pronterface when you try and connect, type in device manager and then go to your ports. I'll show you real quick. So if you go over to here and type device manager, sometimes what happens is it's slightly confusing, but you can click on ports and it will show you if there's a port there. Right now, obviously it's disconnected in my case. And when I plug in the USB, when it's set to direct power, I will not see it until I power up the system. Try moving the jumper if it doesn't show up. I'll show you real quick what I'm talking about. So if I go over to the desktop for a second, looks like I got a compiler error, which I'll address in a second. So over here, if I take this jumper off and I place it on the last two pins for USB and push it down, and then plug this in. I'll show you what happens in Device Manager. So I'll go back over to Device Manager, and as you can see now, that shows up. That is my COM port. So that might be one of the reasons that it does not show up. So I'm going to close this for a second and try and figure out what the error is. So I'm going to scroll up to the top. I don't see an error. So let's see. Platform IO exe run terminated with an error code 1. So what I'm going to do, well, it says cannot find specified path. I may have clicked the upload versus the checkbox, so I'm going to try that again real quick. Upload is for boards like the SKR version 1.3 and 1.4. So it looks like it's doing okay, but obviously I've got to check. Okay, it's almost there. I didn't realize this isn't like 20 seconds long. So that passed. So I'm going to go to the .pio file, or I can go over to here, hopefully. If it shows up, there it is. And I can just click on here. They showed the clean after it builds, by the way. So that's going to open the folder to where I need it. I'm going to double check the drive. Then I'm going to go back. I'm going to right click and I'm going to send it to that drive. And then I'll double check the drive again. It's got it. So I'll go back over to the workbench. I'll disconnect this. I'll pull the power. I'll take the drive out. Slide it in here. Move the jumper over. And now we won't have a connection until there's power applied. So now I got to find the actual power. And so I'm going to plug it in and it will flash now. So as you can see, it's starting to flash. It probably was very brief. So now let's go over to Pronterface and see what's going on. So inside Pronterface, I'm going to click Connect. Then I'm going to try and move the X-axis and see what happens. So I'll move it 10. That's not good. I'll move it back by 10. That's not good at all. So let's try homing. Wow, it's broken. So my tutorial that I made apparently at the moment doesn't work. I made it on a previous version of Marlin 2.0.72. And so there appears to be an issue. Let's see if we can examine what it is. But I think we have it set up correctly. So what I'm going to do is actually roll back to the previous version of Marlin and see if we can do this. So I'm going to disconnect. Sorry, the camera went out for a second. So give me a second here to get back to the desktop. I'm going to disconnect from here. It's already disconnected. So inside here is our Marlin folder. This was the one that we just used. So I'm going to go back and see if I can find the other one. I believe I put it on my desktop. It's in my Marlin releases. I'll copy it. I'll go back over to my downloads folder. I'll paste it here. And I'm going to unzip this and try the exact same thing. Because I think there's a setting that they changed that's causing all sorts of havoc. And we'll see if we can figure it out. So I'm going to right click. Oh, actually I think it's already unzipped. No, that's bug fix. That's not good at all. So apparently I put the wrong build in here. Give me a second to find the right one. And I'll show you a technique for finding it. So we're going to go over to the browser. We're going to go over to Marlin releases. We're going to go to view download. And this is how I get the previous version. click here, scroll down, there's a previous version. We'll download it, and this might take a second. And then we'll go over to our folder for downloads again. And it looks like it's right here, so we'll right click and we'll, well, I'm going to make a copy of it, but I'm going to right click and do an extract all. And then extract, and while that's extracting, I'm going to go back over to the desktop and fix my folder issue. So I'm going to delete that and paste it right here. Whoop, not there. It changed folders on me. Hang on a second. Desktop releases, and then paste. Sorry about that. So let's go back over to VS Code. We're going to click over here, then say close folder. We're then going to click on Explorer, Open, Downloads, 7.2, 7.2, select folder, and apparently I just downloaded just the extras. That's awesome. So let's go back over to that folder and see if we can find it, because I don't have the right folder. As you can see, there's not all the files that we're looking for, so I messed up. It's hard to do this on the fly, if you can believe that. So let's click here. Let's go to branches. Let's see what we've got. So that's 7.2. Let's see what's inside it. It's just the configuration. That's not what we're looking for. So let's click on Marlin firmware, then Marlin, and then click over here. So hopefully, whoop. Let's see what we got here. View all branches. That's not good. Stale, all branches. So they're not showing us what we're looking for. So let's go back over here. It's going to take me a second to navigate around. Click here. And then see if we can find anything. So branches. They may have hidden the branch. So this is not going to be fun. There it is. Download the zip. Sorry it takes a bit to find. I have to actually figure out what they're talking about. So I'm going to go back over to here for my downloads folder. We just downloaded the newest one. So I'm going to get this and extract it. Yeah, doing this live is interesting. You get to see all the warts because I can't think everything out right away. I have to actually try it out. Let me check on the chat while this is catching up. Let's see, even with the COM in Device Manager, it still says access denied. Any ideas? Well, it might be being used by another thing. Let me ask you this. Do you have Cura open, Caleb? If you have Cura open, it grabs the open COM drive. So I'm going to close this for a second, go back over to here, and we'll try this and see if I can get it right. So downloads, Marlin 7.2, Marlin 7.2, that looks correct. So I'm going to select the folder. So now that we have this, we're going to set this up real quick. So I'm going to go to Marlin, Marlin, source, core, boards.h, search on SKR _Pro, copy it, then go back to configuration.h, search on motherboard, paste this right here, change the serial port to -1, and I'll show you what I'm doing and why I'm doing it this way in a second, but we're just trying to emulate the exact configuration we just did. So I'm going to search on A 4988. I'm going to remove the comment right here, and then I'm going to copy this and paste it there. I know these steps still seem slightly different. That's on purpose because we might look at these later. We're going to go to Advanced Config, search on 800. That looks good. So we're going to search on TMC_debug. Remove the comment from monitor driver status. Find the next one. Remove the comment. Go back up. Search on sensorless homing. Oop, gotta go up one. Remove the comment again. Change this to 125. Now I may have damaged this stepper. This is one of the reasons I'm checking, because I was working with this one on another config. So I want to know if that's the case as well. So we're set there. We're set above. So I'm going to do a clean. And then I'm going to do a build with the checkbox. Yeah, we'll have to examine your issue in a second, Caleb. If you want, post your configuration for your version number for Marlin and your configuration.h and configuration.advanced and platform.io.ini in the chat for the general chat of Discord that's located in the description of this video, and we'll take a look. So this obviously failed, but I'm going to compile a second time because this is something I talked about before. They're building out of order, so there might be a couple of things that I'm causing. So let's see what the first error is, because that's the second time. So first error. Let's see, I didn't set the board, so I got to go over to here. The default wasn't set, so I'm going to search on SKR_Pro. Grab the default environment, go to the top, paste it here, and then rebuild again. So first error. This may take a few seconds. I'm still getting an error, so let's see what's going on here. Ring buffer. That's interesting. So it's an assembler message. Never seen it before. Looks correct, so let's try this again. Now they may have taken something out or made it not available from a download folder, so this might have trouble. So far so good, but when I say that, something will happen. Hopefully a good thing. Yep, so we're good there. So I have to go back over to the desktop real quick here. Power down the system. The power cord over here. Pop out the drive. Place it in here. And place it in the computer. Then we need to reveal and explore, so .pio, build, and we need to find the file, right click, reveal and file explorer, right click again, send to the E drive. It's over there, just recently was built. So we're gonna go back over to the, whoop, I know you guys missed that. I'll go back and show you. So what I did was this. I opened this folder, right click, reveal and file explorer, right click, send to the E drive. Whoop, not a mail recipient. and it's going to overwrite, which was okay. We'll double check, it's good. So now I'm going to pop it out and bring it back over. Plug it in here. Plug this in. Then we're going to plug in the power. Then we'll go back over to prunner face. And we'll reconnect. It's probably going to be the same COM port, which it is. We'll do an M503 just for the fun of it. Now we'll try and move. So, what this tells me is there might be an issue with my stepper, that I broke it. So I'm going to power down the system and see what's going on. So I'm going to pop this out, pop out the power, let it discharge for a second so all the lights go out. Gonna check the seating of this in a second, but I'm gonna take this out, and this might have been damaged by the configuration I was working with, and you can see there's like a little line on there, but I don't know if that's normal or not. So I'm gonna put that up to the side and grab a new one. It's just gonna take me a second to find them. So here are my TMC 2209s. Gonna double check the pin configurations again. And I'm gonna drop this in here. Then I'm going to reconnect this. That's in there good. I'm gonna power this back up. I'm gonna power the system back up. And we'll see if that's the case. So I'm gonna disconnect, reconnect. I'm gonna try and move. It's moving fine. It's moving fine. I'll try and home. So me playing with the SKR with that other stepper fried it. Lesson learned for me. For you, you didn't get to see it, but apparently I damaged the stepper. So a good habit to get into, which I'll show you in a second, I just want to power down the system. And show you what I'm going to do. I just want to move the board out of the way so I don't accidentally drop something on it. So power this down, pop this out. Just gonna get this not in the vicinity of what I'm about to do, but this will show you how I avoid using the same thing twice to make an error, because basically I have a blown stepper and I don't want to use it ever again. So here's what my habit is. It's also what I use when I have a bad wire. I'll take the stepper and I'll take a pair of crimpers, which apparently I don't have close by. Let me just see if I misplaced them. Okay, I'm gonna have to grab them in the other room to show you what I'm about to do. So this is what I do when I get a bad stepper. I clip off a side of pins so that I know that it's not usable anymore. That way I won't plug it in ever again, because I know there's something wrong with it. So now that that's all set, I'm going to clean up my work area a little because I threw pins everywhere. But that's a habit I've gotten into over the years to help avoid repeating the same mistake. But let me just make sure all the pins are not around. And then we're going to work with something else that I'll show you that I've been working on. But my camera might time out any second. So let me check on the chat real quick. Okay, let me check over on Discord to see if you have a post. So I'm going to the general chat. Give me a second to get into it. Interesting. Oh, I'm looking at somebody else's general chat. Awesome. Okay, so I don't know if you've been able to upload the actual configuration, Caleb. Are you still there? Because we can take a look at it and see if it actually has an issue. I just want to make sure there's nothing on this board before I put it back down. So I can walk you through how to fix that, or almost anybody else in the actual Discord chat. But if you want, I can walk through it right now, or we can do it later. But Discord, I know, takes a second to get logged into. But it's the best way to communicate with me, because I will not communicate with people over email. It's just, I don't want to do people's homework in whatever country they might be in. It's just one of those things that if you're taking a class for this, part of it is learning the process. In this case, it's just talking about tutorials. But the TFT doesn't work. Which TFT are you using? So, Caleb, I can grab a TFT, probably the model you have. I just don't have 7-inch and 5-inch, but I have everything else. Okay, it should work the same. I'll grab a 3.5. Of course, I gotta grab the right one. Okay, that's an old one. Let me see if I can grab a newer one. Yeah, it probably says no printer. Sorry, I've got a lot of TFTs, so it takes me a second because it's on a large shelf. Okay, here's one. So this is the TFT 35MZ30. It's probably somewhat new. There's actually a tutorial that I did on this for the 2.4, I think. I'll probably release that next because I'm talking about it right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'll show you what's going on. So let me see where I am real quick. Okay, so first thing you need to check is you need to check the browser in this case. And in the browser, you have to go over and find the SKR Pro. What we're going to look for, though, in this case is the pins file to make this quick. So this shows us the pinouts of where our TFT display is. So this is what we're looking for, and we need to know where the reset button is. And the reason that is because the reset button is this single one here. So that's going to be at the top. So all you have to do is align the reset for the top pin and plug it in right here. I know my fingers are probably in the way, so I'll show you this way. And that's plugged in. Now I'm not sure of the state of this actual configuration for this, but I'll show you what we need to do with the firmware. So we're gonna grab our trusty, whoop, you didn't even see me do it. Sorry, hang on a second. Okay, that's the reset pin, that's the reset pin. Hold that out for a second, plug in the other 4. If I can get it back in, grab this one, plug it back in. So we're good there. This is good. I'm actually going to move the jumper over to 5 volts of power for the moment. I'm just going to plug this in and see if it powers up. It's probably going to say not connected, which is fine. It says no printer attached. Okay, so power this back down. Grab the SD drive. Plug it back into here. Plug this back into your computer. Let's go over to VS Code. Inside VS Code, we're going to go to configuration.h. We're going to search on motherboard. We're going to scroll up, remove the comment here. And now my memory kind of fades on which number it is, but it's the 2nd serial port. So let's see if we can figure it out. So let's go back over to the browser. And inside the browser, we're going to go back, and sometimes they have something in here saying what's going on. So let's see, wiring diagram maybe? No, they don't say here. So they might say on the previous version. So let's go to the Pro folder. So in the Pro folder, I think it's either 0 or 2 or something. So I don't remember off the top of my head. So let's try here. Nope. Okay, well I'm going to show you a shortcut in a second if I can't find it. Let's try wiki. Let's try issues. We'll search on TFT. Apparently I'm not finding it there, but it's in my tutorial, so I'm guessing it's either 0 or 1, so this might take 2 to 3 tries. So I'm just going to show you me guessing. So I'm going to go over to VS Code. Inside VS Code, I'm going to change this value to 0 to start. It's going to be one of 3 guesses, hopefully. And then I'm going to build. Notice that I left the speed at 2500. The default on the LCD is usually 115/200. So let's see what failed here. So serial port must be -1 from 1 to 6. So let's try 1. Let's try and build again. Now, they might reverse these in their actual file. It doesn't really matter. Just keep that in mind. So while that's building, I'll prepare to copy it out. So let me just change the view a little. Okay, that's complete. So we'll go over and we'll find that file. Right click, reveal in Explorer. Right click after we check here and send it to the drive. Okay, we'll pop the drive out and pop it back in and see what happens. Power it up, let it flash. Okay, currently it says no printer, then it just went away. So the number is 1 for the 2nd serial. That's why you might be having an issue. Usually in my tutorials, I don't do everything at once. I do them in stages so that you get a chance to digest the material. Because if I do it all at once at this speed, it's kind of hard to understand. because I talk a little bit faster in real life. So that's taken care of. Let's see if it works on your side. Let's see, I gotta read a couple comments because people have been commenting a little bit quick here. Let's see, can you show him what in the firmware to enable and connections? So I did show that, so wrong camera, I'm not sure. Yeah, I probably have to get a different camera, which I'm working on. We can't see with your fingers. Yes, I know, my fingers are a little doughy. Let's see. Yeah, sorry, I talk really fast. L8R. Oh, slow it down, I think. Yeah, normally when I do tutorial, everybody has to watch at 2x the speed. In this case, in real life, I talk a lot faster about things, as you might see. How about the error? Please specify the upload port or use global upload or loaf. Boom. Let's see. Okay. It's working good now. You did already. No, you're good now. Okay. Now I know Caleb might have one other issue that I didn't point out, and I'll point that out real quick. Inside the actual display, let me see if you can see what I'm talking about. So on here, if it still says not connecting, go to menu, settings, baud rate, and make sure that you're set to 250,000 bits. Usually it's default on 115/200. And let's see, I know there's another question in here someplace. How do you use E1 for dual Z? E1, you set a second stepper. That's in the advanced config menu. I think I've gone over it before. Let's see, can you help me with one, please? So let me sort through the comments here because I've got a bunch. Okay, so which one do you want me to help you with? Do you want me to show how to set up the dual Z is what you're saying? Let's see if we can do that. So I'm gonna disconnect this for a second, get it out of the way. I'll turn the camera back on. And I gotta find steppers, so I'm gonna use some TMC 2208s in this case, because the steppers are slightly different. I just have to find some real quick here. Hopefully I didn't damage one of these on the weekend. So if it doesn't work initially, I might have to drop in one because one of these two might be broken. So it's a UART configuration. So we have to find Z, and then we have to find E1 because E0 is going to default as being in use already. So you're going to reach in here, pop these out. You're going to set the UART with the jumper here. Then you're going to do the same over here. Let me move this out of the way. And I got to find steppers that work because I was working on something. And for those that don't know what I was working on, I'll show you real quick because I said I was going to show you a while ago. This is one of the things that'll be up on Patreon soon for patrons. It's a mini printer. that you can print off on your printer. Hopefully it'll work. Right now it's designed to be a test bed. Apparently I might have to pop out the steppers for the moment because I can't find my other ones, and I've got like 50 of them. So give me a second to unscrew these. There's a couple of design flaws in the printer that I still have to get sorted out, so I know it's solid before I upload it to Patreon. Okay, I've got 5 screws left, so it's going to take a second more. And for those that don't know, there is a Discord channel that's in the description that'll allow you to actually try out some of this stuff or talk to other people that have similar experiences. And trust me, a lot of the people are getting real good at understanding problems quickly and troubleshooting them. But the SKR version 2 did some interesting stuff to my hardware over the weekend, so that's why some of the stuff doesn't look like it works initially. And I'm sure it's a great board. It's just apparently according to them, a manufacturer said use this MOSFET, and it didn't work very well. And at the time, I didn't realize I was damaging my steppers. So the design was originally intended to help you avoid plugging in backwards so you don't blow your steppers. But by adding this design to prevent you from destroying your steppers, they destroyed my stepper. Kind of ironic, but for me it's not a big deal because apparently I order a lot of stuff, which is because you guys provide me with the ability to do it by either viewing my YouTube channel or Super Chats or Patreon, so the expense doesn't become great. So I'm going to plug in to this stepper. I'm also going to put the jumper on it so it actually works. And then I'm going to do the same for the other one. And I'm going to jump it right here. And because we're not using 2 Z's, these have to be in place, being these jumpers. Otherwise, use that actual port. So now that that's in place, I have to place the steppers in here. That doesn't look like it's damaged, so I'm going to put it in the Z, and that's going to be a TMC 2208. And then I got to find a second one real quick, and I had them in front of me a second ago. Here they are. Normally you're going to run these with heat fins and a fan for safety. So I'm going to match the colors. And I'm going to put tape on these just so it makes it look like they're moving. But I have to grab the tape here. And I'll put one there and one on the other. This is just so you can see motion, and I'll check the video because I know I'm probably talking and it's on another screen. So let's see what we got here. Okay, you should be able to see that. And I'll check on the chat in 2 seconds. Just want to make sure everything's out of the way. Okay, let's go back over to VS Code. Inside VS Code, we got to make a couple of changes. So config.h, we're going to search on A4988. We're going to remove the comment for the Z stepper, and then we're going to find the Z2 stepper. And then we're going to change to a TMC 2208 in this case. And we're going to paste here and here. Now, it will spin, depending upon your configuration, a certain amount. I'm going to change this to 400 because 4000 will spin for about 5 minutes. I'm just exaggerating, but that's the case. Then over here, I'm going to scroll up and I'm going to search on 800 again. And I'm going to show you something that I'm not sure how it's going to work, so hopefully this will work well. But for the Z steppers, there is a function right here that you can change to chain them. So I'm not going to do it today, but there's a way to make them work in unison. And they talk about it up here. But I believe it is the... what is it called? Actually, I'll look it up and show you. So there's a particular pin that's an address. So if we go to source pins, and we find the board, which is one of these, and we find it right here. This refers us to the common, so we have to go back up to common because these are linked together, and that's why it's showing more steppers. So up here, this is the pins for both the SKR Pro, and that's version 1.1 and 1.2. And what I'm looking for is CS pins. They're called chip select. That may be the way that you need to link them, but off the top of my head, I can't answer that question without looking it up, and that might take a couple minutes. But there's a way to chain these together. These will move in unison, not very well hopefully, but they will. So let's search on dual stepper maybe. Okay, so we have dual steppers. Now if we scroll down here, what you're going to do is you see the number of steppers is defined as 1. And you can define up to 4. So we're going to only do 2. So it's going to use Z2 for the next one. I'm not going to talk about the end stops in this because I personally believe you should only use 1 ever for each X or axis. So I'm going to now compile, and hopefully it won't throw an error this time. And while that's compiling, I'm actually going to pop out the SD drive that I left in there and put it in its container and plug it in. Okay, that's complete. So let's go back up here. Let me minimize this stuff. And we'll find the build, right click, reveal in File Explorer, right click again, go to send to the E drive, double check it's there, which it is. So I'm going to pop that out and go back over to the desktop. I'm going to plug it in. I'm going to change this over to direct power for the jumper. And I'm going to plug in the USB. Notice it only has a light here. That's just to show there's power on it. And now I got to find the cord, so this is going to take me a second. So here's the power cord. Let's plug it in, see what happens. Looks like it's flashing. So I'm gonna go over to Pronterface and we'll see if we can get this to work. It might not work the first time, but we'll see. So connect, it says connecting. I'm gonna do a M122 to check the status. It says everything is okay, so I'm going to try and move the Z axis 10. So it looks like it's working. So I guess I guessed right. Okay, so I'm going to power down the system for the moment. And see if there are any other questions. The invite had expired. When I tried to access Discord, it said invite expired. Interesting. Let me try it. 2 seconds here. Because I know there's a lot of people in there, but they shouldn't be restricting the number of people that come to the channel. So let me see if I can find the address. Obviously, it takes me a second to figure out where I am. Let's see, there's something on the channel someplace. And if someone in chat possibly can post it, because, you know, I'm going to be dog slow trying to find it here. Let's see, members, muting, pinned, general chat. Let's see. Invite people. What's your username if you want to post it for Discord, and I'll send you an invite. So those that don't know how to get to the Discord, I can send you a invite if you post your name for Discord in the chat for either Twitter, or excuse me, not Twitter, Twitch or YouTube. Okay, I know there's an 8-second delay, so it might take a second. Okay, give me a second to paste that in there. Okay, well, I gotta paste it into here, so give me a second. Okay. Don't know if that'll help. Let me try clicking on it. Let's see. 2 seconds. Let me see if I can get this to work right. My Discord, I haven't actually looked up the address in a while, so let me see if I can find it. It's gonna take me a second here. Are you on, Oh, that's my friends list. I'm so sorry. Give me a second to see if I can find it. Good times. Obviously, I'm not super fast with the Discord here, apparently. Interesting. Sorry it's taking me so long. I'm just trying to read through here. Okay, it's time for me to Google it because I'm a little slow on my own stuff. Checking Discord name. Let's see. Discord user has to set the username. They can change the nickname displayed in the server. Let's see. Invite. Overview. That's not it. I'll check on the chat. You probably found it while I was searching. BL Touch is kind of hard to do in this configuration. I actually have to show you that in an actual printer. That's why I'm building the small printer, so you can see what I'm doing. A larger printer on my current configuration is hard to see while I'm doing live stream. Let's see. Jester, were you able to find the actual link? Let me look at the restream name here. I think it's this. Whoop. Apparently my scroll window is about 3 lines large. Okay. Can you see that, Jester? Okay, let me break down this printer so I can show you the actual other printer, or at this printer board. So the whole premise behind this printer board that I wanted to show everyone, that's going to be... Okay. The whole premise of this printer board, or excuse me, this printer that I'm making is one, it's a reward to anybody that's subscribed on Patreon. And also that's where I'm going to be posting designs, so it's kind of a test to see how much interest there is. And apparently there's a lot of interest over the last month. It went up 250%. So I'm kind of making it available to subscribers, because when I post it on Thingiverse, sometimes people copy it and then sell it. So I'm trying to at least make back my time on the actual work. So let me show you what it looks like. Essentially, you can print out your printer. Let me check on the camera. So let's see if you can see that. Let me make it better. So this looks taller than it actually is. It's approximately 200 millimeters tall, what you're seeing. But the printer print surface is going to be 100 millimeters by 100 millimeters by 100 millimeters. And I'm putting in test fixture things to add certain things and subtract certain things, so that I can actually show you during a video with a different camera angle how things operate. This is still in the prototyping phase. It's probably got about 2 to 3 weeks more of work. So I might post other things up on Patreon that people have been asking about, such as the sliding camera, but I have to work out the steps for that. And I may even post my fixture so you can see what I'm actually using to record the tutorials in this aspect. So this is essentially going to build the grooves into the printer. I know it's a very close-up image. I'm sorry about that. But does anybody have any other questions outside of the BL Touch? Because unfortunately, it takes me a bit of time to set up a configuration for that, just because I don't have a printer small enough to fit. And that's what that device is that you're seeing. So I'm going to reset this board back to scratch. I'm probably going to have to do that tutorial that you're looking at for the multiple steppers a little bit later. It hasn't been recorded yet, so I'll have to take people through how to do that. But there's, I think, 8 or 9 tutorials up on Patreon right now for the SKR 1.2 Pro. But I have this weird habit where I need to reset things back to what they look like, so that when I do the tutorial, everything's in the right place. On occasion, I get it wrong. Or, as people watched last Monday, I think it was, I did multiple steppers for, I think, 3 steppers in the Z-axis, and showed people how to troubleshoot the issue. Granted, most people don't have 2 boards, so in this case I think I might have 2 of this, but I'm not sure. And last Monday, I think someone suggested that I do a tutorial on other boards made by other manufacturers other than MakerBase and Big Tree Tech, and I did purchase a board, but it's not going to be here for about 3-4 weeks. So let me check, see what the chat's saying. So G28, the command moves like 10 millimeters, then stops. Any ideas what that might be? Yeah, enter in the G code M119 and tell me what you see. Yeah, there's another video probably coming tonight if I get a chance to actually release it. I got to do some research, so my time might be a little bit short tonight, but the videos are already done. For, I think there's 8 of them still up there. One of them is the actual TFT display, and then several of them are based on steppers. Just remember that we never went back and retested to see if 2.0.8 works, so I want to check that real quick. So I'm going to do that kind of quick. I know I'm doing things a little quick as is, but I'm going to go over to VS Code for a second and see if I can do that and see if it works. So let me reset the board. Hopefully the camera won't click out when I'm doing this. If it does, I'll bring it right back up. But over here, we were doing the TMC 2209. So I'm putting it back into UART. I'm going to grab the TMC that I know works. I'm going to place that in here. I'm going to move this back over. Sorry, things aren't perfectly aligned, but let me see if I can get it as good as it can be. I'm going to stick this down a little bit, so this is going to take a second. For those that don't know, I use a artist putty to keep things in line. It's non-conductive, so it should be safe. I only do this for tutorials, but you might see some white stuff floating about. That's because the putty's breaking down after so many months of use. So I'll probably replace that in a couple weeks. So that's in place. Need to drop this back in place. Set up the power supply. Remember not to rush, because rushing can cause damage to your board. Always take the steps very slowly. I know it sucks to take a long time to do stuff, but if you're paying for the equipment and you don't have a lot of spare cash, it's best to go slow and make sure you understand the directions. And trust me, I have spent my fair share of cash replacing stuff I've broken. Okay, that's there. Jumper is in direct power mode. The motor is connected. The power is connected correctly. The power is unplugged. I'm going to plug in the USB and pop out the drive first. Put it in here, and then we'll see how quickly I can set this up and test it. And hopefully not break anything. So I'm going to go over to VS Code, and I'll show you how to jump through this process quick. So let me just put it in a mode where you can see better. So I'm going to go to File, Close Folder, File, Open Folder. I'm going to go to Downloads. I'm going to go to the current version, open that up, select folder. I think it's still set, so we're good there. So I'm just going to recompile after this loads. So let me close this because I always have that pop up. Click here. We'll see if it builds and doesn't have any errors. I'll turn the camera back on while you're not looking. Okay, that's complete. So let's go to .pio, build, SKR Pro, reveal in File Explorer. Right click. We'll double check the drive real quick. Right click again, send to E drive, double check. We're good there. Go back to the workbench. Pop out the drive, pop it in here. Put in the USB, plug it in. So let me take my time finding the plug. Obviously, I'm going to show you the plug, and I'm going to plug it back in. Give that a second to load, and then we'll go over to Pronterface. And we may have connection issues because it may have readdressed, but let's see what happens. It's online, so let's check to see if it actually is functional. It says it's okay, so let's try moving. Seems to be moving fine. Let's home. So it was definitely a bad stepper that was destroyed by the SKR2. Lesson learned for me. Take your time is the apparent lesson that I should be learning. But let's check on the chat real quick. Filament runout's a bit of a setup as well, but you can use your what is it? I'll show you in the diagram. 2 seconds here, I have to pull it up. So all 3 end stops are triggered. Are there any end stops connected, Caleb? By the way, when I actually do tutorials, I never use example files personally because I like to build up from scratch. But in previous live streams, I've showed how to pick out the settings with file compare. I'll probably do a tutorial on that again, and then I'll release that as just general information because let's just say some people that create videos say to use the example file. The reason they do it is to try and condense all the information in so that you can use it at once. Let's just say the example files are just examples. They're not functional, usually. So, let's see. Hi. Do you think the GTR 1.0 alone is a good choice for a CoreXY with triple Z independent axes? The more axes you add, the more complex the movement becomes. The GTR is a great board. I have obviously 2 of them, but I don't use them in a CoreXY. I use them more for the extra extruders. So eventually I'm going to build a printer that has 6 extruders and be able to print multiple colors at once, being 6. For triple Z, I know that some people have ran into issues where they're trying to raise their axis for the Z axis and it gets kinked because they're not all moving at the same calibration. So the most I would normally go for the Z axis is 2, and I'd utilize the actual dual Z stepper capacity of the board. But if you want to try more than 2 on multiple steppers, just remember you're proceeding at your own risk because lots of things can happen, meaning that they could be at different turn cycles. Someone did recommend in Discord, in the general chat, that if you do want to use multiple axes that are raised, that you tie them together with GT2 belts and pulleys as a way to get around using multiple motors. So they're all moving at once at that point. He'll be more than clear on how to explain how to do it if he's available. But I think it's James the Great in the chat knows how to do that better than I do. There might be several other people as well. It's generally something I don't do. For those that have been super chatting, if I missed your super chat, thank you very much. And for the new patrons, which I haven't checked in the last couple minutes, thank you as well. Unfortunately, I turn my phone to mute when I'm doing this, so I don't always see what's going on. But I think I'm going to wrap it up for the day because apparently I'm still a little worn out from the vaccine on Friday. But I'll pull out a GT2 board in just a second just so I can look at it. I just got to power down this system. Okay, the GT2 is right here. Let me see if I can see it in the workbench. So here's the GT2. As you can see, it's got two for the Z-axis. If you're going to use the second one, you got to pop the jumpers for the red jumpers right here. But you can do multiple steppers like I just did with the other board. I just personally don't recommend it. That's my personal preference, but that is up to you. And this isn't a separate playlist like all of my videos. I also have a website that unfortunately I named after myself called edwardbrayman.com, because originally when I started my YouTube channel I didn't think people were going to watch, and apparently there's almost 12,000 people watching now that are subscribed, so I kind of feel bad changing it. So I'm going to probably leave the channel the name that it is, but it wasn't on purpose. I just didn't realize that I'd get a large audience very quickly. So maybe in the future I'll start a second channel with a more less narcissistic name. But for those that are out there that haven't got their vaccine shots, I highly recommend it, even though it's a day or two of discomfort between the two shots. It's just peace of mind for you and the people around you. And please wear a mask until this is over. And everyone take care, be safe. And I'll be doing a stream on Friday at 6 o'clock as well. So everyone take care, be safe, and I'll talk to you later.